staring at the camera.
Got it.
Good time waiting to start the YouTube live.
Wanted to ask.
Good time waiting to start YouTube live. Oh, yeah, I should probably mute that so that. Yes, technology, and here we are. Just in time for Triple T number 55. Simon Hagar said it best, I can't drive 55, but I can do Triple T 55 times. I've proven it right now. This second, January 17th, 2023. And yes, more texts. We're going to have more people on the YouTube Live that there seems to be an update that happened on Zoom. So people will be joining us later. If this is your first time joining in or watching the recording, appreciate you taking your time to share with us. Remember, I also have a Facebook page, TSWB Helps. That's Tall Skinny White Boy Helps, which is the same name as my YouTube channel. And I know that I have a number of you watching out there. So thank you. If you get a chance, go to the other recordings, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and ring the bell. Leave comments, please. Good, bad, others, whatever. I just like to see that we have live activity out there. Also, if you have any subjects that you would like addressed, you can either join us live and bring them up, or you can put them in comments or email them to me at tj@thetswb.com, which is also my website, www.thetswb.com. There, got all of the new technology stuff. I need some more tea already. Just my voice almost got shot on. Well, I could. How has your week been, Lenore? As long as I got you live on the camera. By the way, for those of you that are watching the recording or watching this live, I have found out that you only get to see the people who have their camera on. So it's like, there was only 3 people up there? No, actually, there were a bunch more. They were all afraid to show their face. And so you only get to see the people who share their, oh, that's right. Fran won't be able to join us tonight either. But we're going to do all we can to make this worth your while. And Lenora, how was your week?
My week has been very good. How's yours?
Mine has been busy, but those of you that know me, that's my normality. The other day I put in my watch track steps. I did 21,500, which when I broke it down, my stride is on average about 2.5 to 3 feet stride, which means I put on almost 12 miles of walking.
That's a lot of miles.
Yeah.
I was hiking and I don't think I did that many miles. So
There've been a couple of days. One day here I did 31,000 steps. And the next day my body validated that I put on 31,000 steps. So, but we're not here to talk about technology and walking and all the above. Tonight's topics, if you saw the post on my Facebook page, side hustles, habits, and reflection. And we might as well jump right into it. It's interesting how side hustle has become such a catchphrase nowadays. I don't remember hearing it much when I was younger. And I think it was mainly just because it was, if you wanted something nice, you had to figure out how to pay for it. And so I was out figuring out how to make some extra money on the side since I was 8. And started hanging out in a mechanic shop when I was 11. Bought my first car when I was 12, which is, I always loved the do you want a car? I'm like, I was working in a mechanic shop. I had the fever. But nowadays, I don't know, things have changed. And they have, but they haven't. When I bring the topic up to people, it's either they're all about it, they know all about it, they're into it, or at least they're thinking about it, or they've never heard of it. And I've met some very young entrepreneurs with side hustles, which impressively torqued me off. It's like, you're how old and you made how much money now? I actually met a 17-year-old millionaire who came from a poor family. So it wasn't like Papa borrowed him some coin and he went out and started a business with a safety net. No, he came up with it on his own. And I don't know how many times on Triple T I've said, if you got one of these, you have no excuse to not be making some coin if you want to. Of course, the keywords there, if you want to. There will always be excuses, especially when it comes to side hustles. Side hustles are full-on excuses or results. I haven't seen too much in between. And for those of you that have not heard the phrase, or you heard it but you never really quite figured it out, it's that side level of income that you make in your spare time. What do in spare time? You'd be surprised if most people that tell me they don't have any spare time can tell me about the latest episode of, I don't even know what's on TV anymore, but they can tell me how the football game went, what the score was. You mean I've got to give up football? No. But while you're sitting there, you could be doing some of the side hustles during the advertisements, or while you're waiting for the instant replay to be played or showed the 4th time. There's also now with social media, you're going to see more and more and more avenues for people sharing their side hustles. And it's interesting how, some people be like, well, they're already doing it. How am I going to make money? Or if I show them, if anybody figures out what I'm doing, then they're going to do the same. And then there won't be enough money for them. There's plenty of money out Some of the stuff, YouTube channels, there's enough copyright released music out there, and people are just putting together their favorite kind of music with copyright released art and starting their own music channels. And they'll strike up a following, and you got money coming in. Now, is it enough to pay off your 40-acre piece of paradise in the middle of town? No, could be. But if you only worked on it for an hour and never worked on it again and made $60 by the end of the year, people would be like, oh, it's only $60. $60 an hour isn't that bad of income if you're doing it on the side, especially if you build it once and the money keeps showing up. It's kind of like putting on that winter jacket, reaching in the pocket and finding a $20 bill. I don't know about you, but that never gets old to me. I'm like, yeah, winning. There are a lot of people out there that are doing really cool pictures with their cell phone. And there are print and ship businesses all over the internet. If you go on Etsy, it's not too hard to look for a framed photo of something cool and order it. Well, do you think that the person you're ordering it from has a dark room now in their basement, and you put in the order and they rush down there and they print it off and they're hanging it and they're photoshopping and everything, and then they're cutting down the tree and they're making the molding and they're putting it all together and they're buying glass sheets of glass? No. When you order it from Etsy, chances are very, very, very good that the order goes straight to a print and ship. They put it together, they put it in a box, they send it to you, and they send the profit to the person that put it together and put it up for you to find it so you could buy it. Same thing with t-shirts, print and ship. If you have any type of artistic design capabilities at all, you can start designing t-shirts, putting them out there. Again, Etsy is a great place for that, but you can start a business page here and there, and order comes in, it goes straight to the print and ship, off it goes, and you get surprises, surprise money. My friends and I call it lazy boy money. Because you're sitting in your lazy boy, also, bing, you're like, what? Oh, I found another $20 bill in my pocket. There's also day planners, journal designs. At this point, there's too many. I could start listing side hustles, and we would run out of time for 3 episodes. There's also a lady on Instagram, Cody Sanchez, who coined something, boring income. And she has a great list of stuff that you see it around you every day, and yet you don't see it. You've used them, but did you think about who put the product there and how much money are they making? Vending machines, the ice machines, car washes, laundromats. And she even shows one of her latest posts on Instagram was a number of businesses and people that have reached out and shared stories with her how they acquired the businesses with no out-of-pocket money. What was that?
I think for me, that's the craziest part because I can't wrap my mind around getting a business loan and going down to purchase a laundromat. And I know she also points out that boomers are now selling their businesses and that you could then buy their businesses or approach them and say, hey, is it for sale? And I think even going up to somebody and even if it's not for sale, but saying, hey, if this is an idea that you're looking to sell, let me know. I'd be interested. I think that's really a great idea and a great opportunity. But for me personally, I don't know a thing about business from that standpoint. I wouldn't know where to get the loan. That is my huge deterrent from purchasing a laundromat or from doing any of that from that standpoint. Huge deterrent.
That probably resonated with
A lot.
90% of everybody that's watching this.
Completely. And
The
what's
best part is the information is everywhere now.
That's true.
So if you're tired of working for the man, or you just don't know what's going on, there are so many options for income.
So many. And there's so much information out there. Completely.
And that's where I wanted to start bringing this up. And what's a good age to learn? Hey, Mo, what's a good age to start learning about side hustles?
Today.
Yeah. Like 8, 5. If you got kids, teach them about money, business, handling their money. It's getting pretty obvious that the public school system is not going to address that. And as a result, there are more and more people that are reliant on going somewhere to create income. And one of my favorite stories that through Peak Potentials, they had a course called Never Work Again, which of course everybody's like, ooh, well, it was more about passive residual income. And if you don't know what passive residual income is, think of musicians, actors, things of that nature. They make something once, and if you make it right, the money, the revenue from it continues to come all the time. In fact, being around the music industry as much as I've been in my lifetime, the songwriters oftentimes will actually make more than the artist, especially if that song is covered by a couple of different artists. They don't have to go out on the road, promote the song, push it, do all the concerts and everything. They write it and they own the rights because they're the one that created it.
I love that Billy Joel hasn't written a song in decades. Hand over fist, and will sell out of concerts endlessly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw, there was a report that said, or if anybody had seen it, Mariah Carey, the amount that she makes off of that one song during Christmas, holy bananas.
Holy
It's
banana,
impressive.
if I cut back on a few things, I could probably live off of that income. What? Yeah, for those of you that don't know, and we don't have Miss Holly on here to do the quick research on it, but it's redunculous income off of that one song. In fact, Elvis is still making obnoxious income. So is Michael Jackson. So is Prince. But even if we're not talking billions and billions of dollars, what in today's world, there are so many people that are one or two paychecks away from utter disaster. Some people can't go without two or three paychecks without worrying about losing where they're living. And that's why I felt compelled to bring this up on this platform to remind people. One of my favorite quotes from Jim Rohn: "You make your living from 9 to 5, but you make your fortune from 5 to 9. You continue to work on your living from 9 to 5 until your 5 to 9 makes more than your 9 to 5. And then you have the option to decide what you want to do with your 9 to 5. Yep.
Question. Do you think that you, and somebody had said this online, that you are born with that desire, or that it is something that can be inspired within you?
I myself believe it's inspired. I don't think that you have to be born with it.
I find it to be inspired within you, but there are people who don't see the that putting in that effort is worth the time. And it's more like, what's the point is so much greater than there can be so much good that comes from it.
I would like to know, it would be interesting to see how many people that have that attitude spend a lot of time in the comfort zone. It's a great place to visit, but nothing really grows there. And that's why habits is another topic for tonight, because a lot of the side hustles require a change in habits, at some level. Now, if they start, the earlier they start, of course, just like with saving money or investing money, the earlier you learn how to do it, the easier it becomes. In fact, it's interesting, the vast majority of self-made multimillionaires will always say that the hardest was the first million, because they had to change their thinking process, their habits, and then all of a sudden, once they made that first million, they're like, oh, that's how it works. And even if you took that first million away from them, they would have the ability to reproduce it much, much quicker. And I know some of you are like, well, how many millions have you made? I haven't. Yeah. But I do know how to drive the car, and I do understand it. Maybe I am a little bit too much in the comfort zone. Maybe I'm spending too much time on low income activities when I should be focused on the high income activities.
I find that that's, at least for me, that's not the hardest, just a more challenging mindset to break. And I feel like from the other stuff that I've overcome. So now this one's like, okay, what have I learned? And I'm still working out the different angles to break through and to keep breaking through and to keep breaking through and to keep leveling up from yesterday. At least that's my thought process. And there's so many different thought processes out there. So many. And I feel like the reason that that first million is the hardest is because you're breaking down all those blocks and those barriers, as lovely Holly would love to call them, styrofoam walls and styrofoam brick walls, but to move through them. And then once you make that first million, you're like, oh, I did it before, I could do it again. And you now have that record, that very precious record of how you did it. And your brain will organize to replicate and duplicate and move forward. But this one is working on what I like to often refer to as like the wrecking ball phase. We have to demo the entire area and start again and start from the ground up. That's why I often think like children who have an idea, they just get so excited, so curious, and they don't have all this other stuff that you would have if you started at 25, 35, 45, 55, moving forward. They don't have those lovely filing cabinets. Remember filing cabinets?
Yes. Two squirrels popped up with that. Help me remember financial thermostat. The second is one of my all-time favorite Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, talks. And if you don't know who he is, if you are offended by swearing, just know that that's just how he talks. And there's one that he did called So You Just Turned 50. And it came out just before one of my class reunions. And it was amazing. And to give you the cleaned up Reader's Digest version, and if anybody sends this to Gary, mucho respect, Gary, appreciate your work and all that you do. But to boil it down, he goes, so I get all these people that are coming to me and they're turning 50 and they're like, oh, okay, so, I got to make sure that my 401k is enough to, retire on. And, I've only got a few years left, and, I don't, is it too late to get started on, this and investments and, just it. And he goes, wait. So you just turned 50. And you're starting to worry about your exit strategy. 40 years ago, well, no, he goes, people are living longer and longer and longer. You have to understand that when the retirement age of 65 was set in place, life expectancy was like 65, 70. They figure, hey, if you made it to like 65, you should be allowed to take your foot off the gas and enjoy a couple of years before you start pushing up daisies. But people are living longer and longer and longer. 80, 90 is not the shock that it used to. 100. I remember when I was young, hearing that somebody had turned 100, and you're like, what? Wow. Now they're like, 105, 109. But he said, let's say 90. You just turned 50. 90 is 40 years away. 40 years ago, you were 10. Were you thinking small? Were you thinking exit strategy? No, you thought you could be anything. You could be an astronaut. You could be a fire. You could be anything. And people who start over in their 50s and 60s are some of the more successful ones on the planet, because you know what you're capable of You know way more than most people do. You know what your limitations could kind of be. And typically, you have some type of financial understanding to be able to go in and do it. You got 40 years left. Stop thinking small. Get after it. And if, like Jim Rohn, if you don't like where you're at, move. You're not a tree.
I always love to, so I've worked in a lot of nursing homes, and I love the Golden Girls. The Golden Girls were actually like in their late 50s and early 60s, not completely retired when they were considered old. And now it's a completely different world. And I think people actually shift their mindset. They put themselves in a rocker way before they are ready to go in their rocker, but their mind quite literally at 40 years old, 50 years old, oh, this is aging. Oh, I'm getting older. This is normal. And they fully expect and let that mindset completely drop in before they even get there.
And growing up where I did, I got to watch both of the extremes. One of my family members, even in her 80s, trying to keep up with her, you better do a 5-hour energy and a Red Bull. And that was her on a normal day. You get her jacked on coffee and she'll mow the front yard with fingernail clippers at 85 in Minnesota. It's snowing outside. She's up at 4 a.m. shoveling the snow off of the driveway because she got stuff to do. And then I've seen other ones that, you know, a lot of it is, who did you hang around with? What are the mindset of the people in your tribe? And they worked in industries where it was typically old, frail people. And mid-70s, they have the mindset of a frail 90-year-old. Body's completely healthy. Mind is totally sharp. Nothing wrong with the vision. Vision is the same as 40s and 50s people that are driving on the highways. But it was that mindset of being around those people. And I even got the benefit of when I was in Cali, I ended up having to live in one of our college rental homes. 8-bedroom house. There I was with 7 college students in a revolving door going through, and I lived there for 6 years. But one of the cool things was the energy in that house was not my age. And yes, I still had to work, but I didn't have to come home and go, oh, I feel like, in fact, a couple of them would ask me how old I was, and I'd look at them and I'd go, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. Like, well, how old are you? I said, well, how old do you think I am? I don't know, 35 or something. I'm like, yeah, we're going to stick with that. No, really, how old are you? I'm like, I'm probably older than your parents. No. I'm like, you're like 20. Your dad's like 25 older, 25 years older than you. I'm older than your dad. I'm telling them older. They're like, you're really? Like, for real? Like, for real? I said, yeah, but who would you rather hang out with, me or your parents? And I have a lot of those, I call them kids because obviously they're old enough to be my kids. Mommy.
as he dies on camera.
Yeah, Freudian slip. Kids, but go ahead.
One of the things that kind of circling back, which is kind of a running theme, whether it be the people that you're hanging around with, the age of them, the entrepreneurs, the kids coming up today that don't have the baggage, it's all mindset on how you perceive yourself. And that's one of the reasons why it's critically important that you surround yourself with people who can help you drive you forward. And if you happen to be in a situation where you can afford a coach or get yourself a coach or somebody that can help you break down those barriers and those blocks. When you're younger, most people that you know, if you talk to people that are in their 40s and 50s that have successful businesses, they said, if I would have known what it takes to start a business, I'd have never started it. But they didn't know. And so that's why it's so much easier. And then when you get people that are 40 and 50, they don't want to start because they actually do know what it takes and they don't want to put that kind of effort in. So it's being able to break down those styrofoam brick walls and just moving forward and getting back into that mindset. And you can't do it alone. Like, it takes a tribe. People think that I can just do this all by myself, and you can't. You can't see your blind spots. You can't see what's holding you back. You can't see what's in your subconscious. And you need somebody to help bring that out in you. So it's critically important that you have, if not somebody who is skilled and has the ability to do that, at least have a support group that doesn't bring you down. So, oh, you can't do that, or you're stupid to even try that, because that will hold you back faster than anything.
Very much so. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. The other advantage to having that kind of a tribe and tying into taking over some of these businesses now that the baby boomers are retiring out of, you can ask them if you can purchase the business, but keep them on for a year or two to guide you and teach you how to run the machine. You don't have to deep dive. I should talk. When I bought the photography studio, I had no real formal training on how to run a photography studio. I'd been a yearbook photographer. I enjoyed taking pictures since I was a kid. By the way, Mom, if you're watching, thank you for putting up with constantly buying film for the camera so that you could get random pictures of sunflowers and trees and a bug and stuff like that. But I went from working in a high-end stereo shop to owning one of the most prominent photography studios in our area, which is ironically where I had my senior photos done, in barely a 2-month span. So it was like, you should buy my studio. Yeah, swing by. Bring some of your photo albums. We'll see if you got the eye and how I can help hone it for you. All right. So I swung by with some of my photo albums. And he goes, yeah, you got a good eye. You just need to have some training on how to refine it. You should buy my studio. All right. I didn't have money. We worked it out, and all of a sudden, boom, there I am owning a photography studio. Yeehaw! Trial by fire. But this isn't just about buying expensive running businesses. Again, side hustles can be as small as if you only made an extra $150, $200 a month, would that help? And a lot of this stuff being billed at once, if you did that, if it took you 3 hours to do that, could you find 3 hours each week to build a new project? And if project one started making you 50, 60 bucks a month, then all of a sudden you've made 4 projects in a month. And the next month something came up, so you only made 3. But in 2 months, you've got 7 projects pulling $40, $50, $60 a month. Could that help? There are teenagers doing it. Oh, but they know the technology. Yeah, that's a great excuse. If you don't have YouTube, access to the internet, or the ability to talk to other people to learn how they're doing it. There are so many different inputs, access to information on how to do this stuff. If you want to do it, you can.
Well, and I think you're bringing up a really good point, TJ, because I just actually had this conversation yesterday. If you had tried to start up a podcast, a YouTube channel, a side hustle, even 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, it would have been extremely difficult, would have been hard to find information. Now, you don't even need a book on anything. If you don't know how to fix something on your car, just Google it. And there'll be like 50 videos that'll come up on how to fix whatever problem it is. So that there's the technology and the ease of doing stuff now. Well, I don't know how to edit a video. Doesn't matter. Just Google it, and there'll be 50 videos that'll come up, and you'll probably be able to learn what it took somebody else probably 3-4 years in college or university to study that, to do that, because the information just wasn't available in the past that it is now. So Jordan Peterson actually was just talking about that. He was predicting that in the next 5 years, half the university is going to be broke because there's going to be no need for them, you know? So that's a pretty scary fact, where with all the AI and everything that we're moving into, and how exponentially fast. Like I say, 5 years ago, you couldn't have got the information you can get today. The ease of starting a podcast today versus 5 years ago is night and day difference. So yeah, just if it's something that you have an interest in, there's something you have a passion to do, it's very, very easily to step into that realm and educate yourself. And it really doesn't take a lot of time. It's not like going to school for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years to get educated on it. Basically, you can probably educate yourself enough to get going in either a couple of days or maybe even a month, you know, and you'll have all the information to get started.
And again, even with some of these small side hustles, 1 or 2 videos, and you're running, you're going. And, you know, one kid that I met, back to never work again. I got squirrel sidetracked. It was his dad was speaking at the training, and so 8 years old comes with dad, hang out, summertime. Well, on the way home, they're driving home to Vegas, and the kid looks at dad and says, "You know what, Dad? I want to make $1,000 a month passive residual income." And of course, Dad's like, "Oh, that's so cute. You go, buddy. I'll back you." Well, they get home on a Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. Sunday, they come back from church, Dad decides he's going to go out for a bicycle ride. He comes back and the boy is still in his church clothes, but he's got some papers that mom helped him with, but agreed to not tell dad, which was fine. The family had set it up that if you want to pursue something, they will help you. He didn't keep it as a secret from his dad because he was afraid dad would shoot it down. He wanted to surprise dad because he had made a goal. And dad goes, "Where are you going?" He goes, "I'm going selling." Dad goes, "All right." Well, kid went out. Fast forward to Tuesday, dad takes out the garbage. This is in Vegas in the summertime, little warmish, you know. Well, dad gets home from work and he's bringing up the trash cans. And all of a sudden the boy pops out with his Sunday clothes on and the papers. And he goes, I don't remember his last name. He's like, "Mr. Lewis, I'm curious. Do your trash cans have a bad odor? If they do, would you be interested in hiring me to come by every other month to wash and sanitize them for you? For only $10 a month, I will come by every other month and wash and sanitize your trash cans. And all you have to do is sign a 1-year contract. Would you be interested?" And the dad goes, $10 a month? Well, of course. Yeah, I'll do that. The kid sold 120 contracts and hired 2 of his buddies to do the work, which netted him $1,000 a month passive residual income. When he turned 13, he had grown the business big enough that he sold it. He already had a few other businesses going on the side. Dad had taught him how to do work in the stock market. When he turned 18, I met this kid. When he turned 18, he had already purchased his dream car, Mustang convertible, paid cash for it, and purchased a townhome on the beach in Florida because he loved to surf, and negotiated his 4-year college degree, paying cash up front, paid 60% of the price because he pitted 2 universities against each other. And at first they were like, "Oh yeah, we don't do that." He goes, "You don't understand. I'm offering upfront cash. If I don't graduate, you still get the cash." And that's when they went, "Oh, most kids don't make it past their freshman year, so yeah, we'll gamble. We'll take it." And so he pitted the 2 of them against each other and finally got it down to 60%. And he said his day consisted of get up in the morning, go surfing, come back in, clean up, go to school, come back home, go online, check his stocks and investments, go surfing, come back in, have supper, wash, rinse, repeat. And his dad came to visit and stay with him for like 3 days. This is where dad came in and tell the story. He goes, day 3, he's like, "You got to get a job. You can't just be out like, surfing and doing school and, messing around." And And the kid goes, Dad, you're the one who taught me how to do this. I'm doing exactly what you taught me. All my bills are paid, my car is paid, my home is paid for, and my school is paid for. And Dad went, I'm sorry. Wow. Started at 8. I started at 8 too. I was fixing all the neighborhood kids' bicycles, but I didn't have the mindset for the business. I was doing it because I love to fiddle, futz, and fix. That's how I ended up in the mechanic shop.
Well, and I would correct you on that, TJ. I don't think it's so much you didn't have the mindset, you didn't have the mentors, you didn't have the tribe around you to help you succeed.
Yeah. And Lenore.
Oh, wait, go ahead.
No, I saw the hand. Please.
Oh, wait, go ahead. Mentors, mindset,
Well, I
support.
was just going to change topics. So
You should have like a flag. You have your squirrels run across the road or something. You had said something about, okay, so when people are this person pitted schools against each other. And I know once you mentioned that you went to your university and you got them to create a contract. And just earlier, Maurice mentioned about connecting with a coach, connecting with somebody outside your circle that can help you get to where you want to go. And I'm a huge supporter of it because I've been on both sides, and I still am on both sides. I still hire coaches. I still work with people that are helping me get to other levels of myself that I want to achieve and accomplish. That being said, if anybody who is ever listening at any point, if you see somebody and they say, this is the investment, this is what I charge for you to work with me. Just like that person pitted the schools against each other, just like people negotiate, ask if there is that flexibility to, if you have the drive and you might not have the exact financial match that person is looking for, but they really resonate with you, ask and see what that person where they can meet you, because everybody's human, mostly everybody. But to ask, because you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't ask, you're just, oh, okay, not for me, rather than just asking the question and seeing if somebody else can match you and help you where you are to help you get to where you want to go.
Exactly. And I just noticed you also asked the question on how do you respond to people who say they are really trying their best? What might you be able to do different? If you had an identical twin, and you could change just a few things about them, what might it take for them to become more successful than you? And oftentimes the answer is so small and simple. Like the book, The Slight Edge. The concept has been rewritten a couple of different, the compound effect, the slight edge. Small changes over time can turn into massive change. So many people think that they have to wake up in the morning and instantly become the next mega entrepreneur. But if they were to truly inspect their lives, they would find a couple of places where they could make some small changes. And that's why I brought it up as side hustle instead of 180-degree career change. The other part, we're running down on my hour here, that I put up is reflection. And making sure, especially now that we're into week 2 of the resolutions, where are you at on your changes? Look back at the last 3 months, the last 6 months, the last 9, the last year. We know that the last 3 years have been yeah, we're just going to keep it clean and say it's been an unusual circus.
I was going to go with interesting.
Yes.
But again, that's a good point you brought up, TJ, about what has transpired in the last 3 years. So if you look at people, social media around the globe, whatever, you have people that have failed miserably in the last 3 years, and you have other people who have taken that opportunity and ran with it to become ultra successful. The environment hasn't changed. It's been the exact same environment for everybody. Only thing that's changed is their mindset and their ability to see opportunities and bring them out of their blind spots and take advantage of them inside of, despite what everything that was going on. So it really doesn't matter. And it brings me to another point. Every time you think you can't do something, look back at your life and how many times did you think that you couldn't accomplish something or do something or whatever it was, you did it and were successful. This is no different. You want to start a side hustle? Well, I can't do that. Well, there was lots of other things. At one point you couldn't walk either. And you got up and you fell down. But at the end of the day, now you can run a marathon. It's not something people are under the impression right now that it's get rich, everything has to happen instantly, and it doesn't work that way. It's skills, and you have to keep practicing. So you start a side hustle. Maybe the first one, you're off to the races, and maybe it fails miserably. Start another one until you find your niche, until you find that you're actually able to get up and walk across the room without falling down. Now you've accomplished it.
And I love that you brought that up, because one of my favorite things is when people say, well, I haven't done that before. I love coming back with, yeah, well, there was a time when you couldn't operate a spoon. And you learned how to feed yourself. There was a time that you had to wear diapers. I'm assuming there was a point where that no longer was the case. You learn out of either necessity or desire or will, or go back a couple of triple T's, and Jordan Peterson had the great collection of what it takes for some people to change. Is there enough pain to make you want to change? Do you finally have the resources to allow yourself to change? All of the above. Lenore. Gotcha. Oh, why'd you do that? I just saw you.
Honestly, it's like the waiter coming over and you just took a bite and they're like, how's the food? And you're like,
Did the squirrel run away?
yes, yeah, almost got it by the tail. I think there has been for me, and I can even like feel the urgency of it. But it needs to be now. It needs to be now, especially with, and I love Amazon. I order from there very conveniently, and we are so pampered and spoiled in this 2-day turnaround time where that's almost not fast enough. And so to think that you're going to start a side hustle and that you're not going to see that immediate component of the benefit of money. So then people are like, oh, well, $60, whatever. But even if you think $60 over time, you're like, is it worth it? But to see beyond what it may grow into. And I know for sure that's definitely been, a limitation for mine, and to really keep shaping it and remolding it and thinking, what else could it be? This is something else that it could grow into. And even, there are people who started these YouTube channels and they just said, you know what, I'm going to make a commitment and I'm going to bust out a video every single day for a year. And then a year went by. Ta-da! Every week for a year, and subscribers come on and people find stuff and things transpire, and you don't know what happens. And I know for sure you've mentioned, TJ, oh, so-and-so said they saw this video and it was like 20 weeks ago. You never know. Once it's out there, and you never know what can happen and where it can go. So there's truly $60 plus ... endless opportunity and possibility of where it could actually grow and go and flow.
And
And
go ahead.
and you're 100% right, Lenora. Jordan Peterson is a prime example of that. He never intended to be doing what he's doing, but he had a passion, and he had a drive to do what he felt was right. And now he's essentially at escape velocity, and they're trying to squash him. They're trying to take him down. He's too big now. It's not that they're not going to be successful at it. One of the things, just to carry on with what you said, is a quote that Tony Robbins says quite often: people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a day. It doesn't happen overnight.
It's so good, because really, and there's one, I think is it by Elon or even Tesla? And what you give yourself 6 months to do, but if you gave yourself 3 months to do it or 2 months to do it, and changing that time frame. And even if you said, okay, I'm going to give myself a week to clean my room versus I'm going to give myself 2 hours to clean my room, what you can really accomplish in that time frame, especially when you set a timer of saying, okay, this is as much time as I'm allotting. And for anybody listening, if they feel like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of thinking, it's a lot of your own reframing. How else might I think of this differently? What else might I accomplish? If somebody was here, how would they talk to me about this? How would they coach me through it? And yes, it is diligent, at least for me, diligent, ongoing mental conversation to keep moving forward. Because if you don't stand guard at the doorway of your mind, you can become complacent very, 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 very quickly, faster than you could possibly imagine. And then your room's still a mess.
100%. And what you tell yourself is critically important. If you say, well, I can't do this, or if I haven't got it yet, but I will master it, that will change everything.
Yeah. And what a lot of people don't see is that the people that are on here are the people with the cameras off. We have side conversations outside of this group, and we are cheering each other on every single day because it makes the difference. And you need that kind of support if you want to move from where you were yesterday to where you want to move tomorrow.
And to throw in another one of my favorite quotes, the person who thinks they can and the person who thinks they can't are both correct. In fact, I've seen enough of the over-educated people who are afraid to take a step, and yet the undereducated person who is excited and just wants to do it is already at step 40. They're not really sure what the heck they're doing, but they're doing it. And the cautious, overeducated person goes, well, but they're not doing it right. Yeah, but they're doing it. Well, but they should be doing it this way. No, you should be doing it that way. Well, but I still got to take a few more classes before I can get started. Yeah, you have 75 classes under your belt. They have half of one. And then they watch 2 videos on YouTube and talk to some person on the street, and they're on fire.
Are you talking about me without me, with me being right here?
Oh.
Dagger. I've gotten better. And for somebody who's I grew up with you're going to have a job, you're going to work 40 hours for this job. And now it took longer than I thought it would to really shift from this mind of somebody else is employing me to I am employing me, and I'm choosing where I invest my time, and I choose where I put my work, and to acclimate to not knowing what 50% of your week is going to look like, and just going with things are going to show up, and it's going to evolve, and that you quite literally at least for me, I keep saying to the universe, I'm all in. Whatever opportunities come up, I'm all in, because I can't be all in and have this very tight structure that I've had. So I may possibly be starting 2 podcasts, which is pretty cool. So I'm all in. Opportunities keep coming.
And that I'm going to do the official sign off for the first hour. For those of you that are watching the recording for the first time or joining on YouTube live for the first time, I like to, for the first hour, just open up my brains and dump them on the table and hope you find good stuff in there. And then the second hour, I open it up for open mic, open platform. And if anybody has any topics that they would like, we can continue with what we're talking about. If anybody has any other topics or questions or things that you've thought of during the week that you would like addressed, then we allow anybody in the call to all answer, because I didn't create Triple T so that I could be the talking head, listen to me for 2, 3, 4 hours. I wanted this to be a collective, because I get to learn as well. So back to Lenora. Didn't mean to cut you off like that. Squirrel, where were we?
Well, one of the things that, bringing it back to what Lenora was talking about, David shares a story how when you're some people are overly intelligent and some people not quite so much. The people who are not as intelligent end up with substantially more dates than people who are much more intelligent. And when they studied that, the reason behind that is the people who are more intelligent are going to, well, I'm going to go ask that girl out, but she's probably got a boyfriend, or she's probably going to say no, or she's probably going to be busy. They overthink it, and they get to the point where they talk themselves out of it and never actually do go over and talk to her. Where the guy who's maybe not quite as intelligent, he'll just go over and ask. He doesn't, and if she says yes, or she says no, it makes no difference. He just moves on. And in the span of a very short period of time, he's asked 100 girls out. The other guy's asked 2 out. Who's going to get more dates?
As a person who was a bartender and a bar manager for a number of years, I can validate that completely. The other thing to add to that is during my time in network marketing, and I'm so glad I did it. So glad. The amount of personal development. If somebody approaches you for a network marketing idea, if you like the product, go for it. And I hesitate to say, don't do it to become the next millionaire in the company. But the environment that those companies usually attract are very uplifting, very supportive, very personal growth driven. But one of the things that stuck with me was, why do they do the stage walks for the different ranks? And it was simply because they did that? That person? It was the that person walk. when you're sitting there over analyzing and doing this and oh, I'm too busy and da 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 da, and then Billy Joe Hankins, no, it's a made up name. If your name is actually Billy Joe Hankins, I'm not talking about you. But Billy Joe Hankins comes walking across the stage in his coveralls, and he's got 4 teeth in his mouth, and he's reached 3 ranks higher than you and got a check for $150,000. And you're like, he did that? That guy? And I watched it enough. I was doing it too. I ain't gonna lie. I was like, yeah, they did? And some of it is exactly what Mo said. They didn't know any better. They just went out and did it. In fact, a crazy quote that I didn't quite understand at first was, if you douse yourself with gas and start yourself on fire, people will come just to watch the fire. And no, we're not promoting it. Stop typing. If you think about what the story, what the message is, if there's activity, if there's interest, if you get out and make enough of a scene, people will show up. And Byron Schrog had a great talk where if you're afraid to go out and approach people to sell your time, your goods, your product, whatever, he said, well, what if all you had to do was show them a video? It's just a 5-minute video of your product. And I told you that I'll give you 24 hours. 24 hours, you have 100 people watch the video. They don't have to buy, they don't have to like it or nothing. All you have to do is get them to sit still for 5 minutes to watch the video, and I would pay you $10,000, whether you get one person on board or not. How many of you would be standing at the street corner going, stop the car, 5 minutes, shut it off. Oh my God, look at this, watch this. All I got to do, just watch this, 5 minutes, that's all you got to do. But we get so far in our head about, like Mo pointed out, well, they're probably going to, and we start mind reading. And we come up with all the scenarios and all the worst case scenarios, and oh, I'm going to be judged, and oh, they're going to think this, and oh, they're going to laugh, and they're probably not going to buy anyway, or they probably don't need my service. Why would they? Tie it right back into side hustles. T-shirt design. Yeah, but man, there's so many T-shirts out there, probably nobody'd ever buy it. What if one person bought it? What would that do for you? What if you got a $3 commission check because you were just doodling while you were watching the game, came up with a cool little design idea, set up a little shop on Etsy again or wherever, and linked it to a print and ship, and one person bought your T-shirt? What would that do for you? Well, I'd give you a couple of bucks more than you had while you were watching TV anyway. What if it just caught on? What if it was one of those crazy little, that was cool. Somebody bought it, they're walking down the street, somebody goes, that's a cool T-shirt, where'd you get it? Oh, I got it at da-da-da-da. And all of a sudden you sell 100 shirts. And in that 10, 15 minutes that it took you to doodle the idea, and get on the computer and put it on there. Say it if it took you an hour, an entire hour of your entire life, 1 hour of your entire life, and you created a shirt and you sold 100 of them and you only made $3 per shirt. That's $300 an hour. I don't know about you guys, but 300 an hour, especially if I'm sitting around watching TV or fiddle futzing, that could fit in my budget a little bit. Yes, why not?
What would you tell people when their brain is like, well, it's only 300 or that was only one? And like when you have that success, that critical voice that comes up that is like, yeah, but it's only one, or yeah, but it's only 300, rather than the excited voice.
Exactly.
So, and the other thing that is critically important in that scenario, would you be doing it for free? Is it something, if you love to doodle, you'd be doing it for nothing anyways. Now you've made $3, but you would have done it for free.
And the other thing that if you have an aversion, if your bank account is already too full and the bank has contacted you and said, hey, no more. We don't have any room in the vault for any more of your money, then give it away. Donate it to your favorite charity. Pay for groceries for the single mom down the street. There are so many things that can be done with it. Do it for practice, just for fun, just to see if you can do something. Set aside a little. What if you decided to do a side hustle, and the only thing that it's designed for is for you to have a reward that you've always wanted, but you never thought you deserved. Maybe it's I don't know. Maybe it's a jacket you've always wanted, a pair of boots. Shoot higher. What if it's a vacation? If I do this side hustle, all the money's going to go into an account. And when it reaches this account, we're going to go on vacation to blah, blah, blah. Well, if you've never gone on that vacation before anyway, what are you out? But I tell you what, if that money shows up, all of a sudden you realize you're like, there's enough in there to take that vacation now. That vacation is going to have a whole different feel. I guarantee you, when you come home, you might want to do it again. In fact, you might find yourself doodling on your vacation going, this vacation got paid by a side hustle. Wonder how many more of these little things I can grow.
Well, I think that's a very valuable point, TJ, because how many times have people gone on vacation and it cost them 2, 3, 4, 5, 10,000, whatever it was. And now they put it on their credit card and now they come back. They had a good time when they're on vacation, but the 3 or 4 or 5 days before they came back, now they're starting to stress out because they've got to go back to work. Now they've got to make the money to pay for what they just did. And so all the benefits and all the things that they gained from being on vacation got wiped out because of the stress of having to recover it.
And vacations are very much needed. The studies have shown it over and over and over again, which 3 years ago, with what happened, the emotional and physical ailments beyond what was being passed around was the simple fact of not being able to go on vacations, not being able to get away from the house, get away from all the above, and unwind and recharge.
And sometimes it's not even about actually getting away, just the fact that you can't. Like you just don't have the ability. You know, that's a huge mental toll.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, I think a number of people underestimate how little it takes to have that mental recharge. I've been so blessed. The number of trips, vacations, places I've been to, things I've seen, for the amount of money that I didn't make in my lifetime, it blows my mind sometimes when I think about it. But I also know that a vast majority of people have hardly traveled in a vacation mindset beyond 50 miles from their house. I've got a buddy that at first I used to laugh at him because he and his wife would go 25 miles away to the casino. But they would make it a weekend thing. And it wasn't about the gambling. He said we set out $200 to gamble. We rent a room, which is super cheap. We catch the live concert on Saturday night. We show up Saturday afternoon, fiddle futz around, have a great supper. We go see the concert. We got $200 each to go. Basically, we know that we could win, we could just lose it. And then we go to our room, crash out, wake up late, drive home. And he goes, and for what some people save up for an entire year to do one vacation, we'll do that 6 times a year. And it costs us less than the person that had to go on the big, massive vacation. And a couple of times they won some coin, but they straight flat. When that gambling money is done, no matter how hot the table was and how close they got, when it's gone, they're gone. And that was their entertainment addition. And so we have to remember the importance of the mental breaks and the little rewards, the little celebrations.
I was going to add in proximity to not proximity to power, but when Maurice must have said something and that's when I had remembered it. When you're closer to people who feel lucky, when you're close to people that feel inspired to do more, have more, be more, it's contagious. It truly is energetic. And just simply by being close to them, you will start to feel it too. So if you don't feel like your money is where you are, if you don't feel like your motivation is where you are, look, and you're wondering why, look around and notice the environment, notice the people that you're surrounding yourself with, and notice the narrative that they're saying and that you're hearing, and you'll start to understand, oh, maybe some things need to change. when you start to change your internal, your external will change. And if you want your internal to change faster, change your external, even to really get the ball rolling and going.
One of the great things that I loved about that, the great quote from Dr. David Snyder, somebody said, well, I want to make some more money. He goes, all right, move to a zip code that they make more money. You want to lose weight, you want to get in better shape, look at the neighborhood you're in, and then move to a neighborhood where people are in shape. You might have to move out of the state. World According to Briggs, he has all of these lists and states with the people in the best shape, worst shape, he's got all these different lists, best places to retire. But when you start looking at stuff like that, your environment is very important. Mental, physical, business, monetary, all the above. And the nice thing now that we have internet, you have the ability to surround yourself with a better tribe. Be it a little more challenging to assemble them, to share the energies, the information, all of the above. And so you get a little more creative on how to find them, how to gather them, but it's still the possibility. And the famous quote, you can have excuses or you can have results, but you don't get to have both. We're at 26 minis into the second hour. Is there anything else that you guys, any questions or topics that you guys want to bring up? Bueller. Yes, please.
I have one. I don't know if anybody else is going to pop their hand up. How to start building trust? Like if people, and I notice this when you share what you can do with people, or you share how you help people, people are automatically untrustworthy, not of you, just of already on the defense. Does that make sense? Like they're already worried, concerned, untrustworthy, thinks X, Y, and Z. How do you, and I recognize that that's on them. I can only do so much, but how do you start building that trust? Not necessarily between the two of you from the rapport standpoint and 3 magic questions, but encouraging them to build trust within themselves. Did you get all that?
Okay, you guys get to go first.
Well, I would say the biggest thing is, Lenora, is service. What can I do for you? How can I help you? What would make the difference for you? And not approaching it from the standpoint is, well, this is what I can do for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about that. It's all about what is it that you need and what can I do for you and how can I help you? And then support them wherever they are. Because everybody's always interested in what's in it for me, right?
That is true.
And if you put them in that position, they're a lot more likely to trust you if they're getting value from what you're doing. And their value, not what you perceive that they might need, but what they either consciously or subconsciously, whatever rabbit hole they go down, you just follow.
Mm-hmm. But even to encourage them to start trusting themselves, like when they're out in the world, and how they can start trusting themselves, and pointing out ways that they've already trusted themselves. Like, you trust yourself to get up and get dressed and get to work every day.
100%. And then use words like, what might that be like? If you could imagine.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
There's also a lot of different resources on that. One that I thoroughly enjoyed, the book, The Speed of Trust by Stephen R. Covey. Great book. There's also studying multiple forms of trust transfer. There will be trust by authority. There will be trust given by acquaintance transfer. Because I know and trust this person, and you know this person, they know you, now that trust level of a percentage of that trust is transferred over to you as one of their acquaintances. As Mo said, what's in it for me is another great one. Another one is through disassociating yourself from the transfer, either through telling stories to help them out, because then stories have amazing power for trust, insights, things of that nature. And then, of course, finally studying NLP and hypnotic language patterning, which sadly I've heard, well, it feels like you're tricking them. That to me is more of an internal dialogue. What is your motivation? What is your outcome? If you're tricking them into having a better life, well, gosh darn it, how bad, how nasty. If you're tricking them into releasing limiting beliefs, well, that's a terrible thing to do. There will always be the dark side and the bright side to any tool that you have available to you.
The other thing that I would like to add on to what you're saying, TJ, is just being vulnerable and let people know that you've made mistakes. You've screwed up. I've done this myself, and this is what I did. And this is how I failed. And just put yourself in that position. Like the podcasting, I was watching a clip on that, and they were saying, don't edit it, because people are becoming so distrusting of mainstream media now. When they see you flub up, when they see you make a mistake, and you correct it, and you leave it in there, you just become relatable at that point, because they're making mistakes too,
Well, thank you for saying that. I just watched one on that because I had looked up how to edit my YouTube recordings and came across somebody that said you're better off leaving them rough and uncut and unedited, so that they know that what they're seeing is 100% who you are.
I'll jump in first. I don't know if you can hear me or if there's too much noise in the background.
No, we can see you.
Okay.
You look like Obi-Wan.
Sorry, I'm just going through the intersection right now. And the Emperor. But yeah, the other thing, I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of a trust bank. I was introduced to this through Matthew has. I don't.
Oh,
It's about. Oh, shoot.
we lost.
Oh, okay. I think I can. Am I here? Am I back?
There you are.
Can you hear me?
You're cutting.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's funny that you said Obi, or she said Emperor, because when you said earlier that you were doing something and I was like, oh, it's the good Jedis. Team good Jedis.
Well, hopefully she'll get to a better signal soon. I always love her input on stuff. Are you there?
Oh, sorry. I said I'll chime in when my signal's a little bit more stable. Is it more stable now?
Well, we know how technology works. So oftentimes it'll work perfectly until you have something important you want to say. But we're here waiting for you because we.
Oh, well, in that case, I'll keep trying to talk. Sorry. As I almost fell off my face. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, see, all of that came through perfectly.
Of course it did.
Yes.
So Matthew Hussey talks about this concept called the trust bank. And I don't know where he got it from. I'm sure he got it from somebody too. But the idea is, whether it's especially with ourselves, every time we promise ourselves we're going to do something and don't follow through, we have to make a withdrawal from the trust bank. Every time that we do something and we do follow through, we're making a deposit. And the problem is, a lot of people, they do their New Year's resolutions and they get really, really big on it and they don't follow through. And so most people are living with a negative balance in their trust bank. And so one of the first, and I mean, I know it was kind of already said, but this is just from a different perspective. One of the things you can do is just start putting deposits in. So things you're going to do anyway, create a checklist, and checking it off the list helps really make it solid. So just say, hey, today I plan to go to the grocery store. Oh, went to the grocery store, checked off. Today I plan to sleep in. Oop, I slept in, checked off. It doesn't have to be, we always think, oh, it's got to be a goal, right? It's just saying I followed through with what I said I would do. And so you're allowed to put, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to breathe 5 times and a minimum of 5 times in the next minute. It sounds silly. And some of them obviously will be bigger deposits than others. But also, we talk about the Lesotho line, or that's not what David calls it. What does David call it? Anyway, the idea that you need to have 7 positives for every negative. We need to start making sure we're celebrating, because I was just thinking when we were talking about the hypnosis, you could do it, but you could also remember the time and what might it be like if you had been true to yourself. Just pulling it up and accessing it over and over again, celebrating it, having fun with it. That's going to put deposits in your trust bank and get, hopefully, bit by bit, you're going to get back to a positive balance from that negative balance that you're at. So very long, and sorry I had the technical difficulties in the middle, but hopefully that makes sense.
Absolutely, Holly. And I'd actually like to ask you a question that I'd like you to share with everybody. So if you told yourself that I want to get XYZ done today, or I want to do this, and you don't follow through, and now you expect other people to trust you when you don't trust yourself, how do you show up?
That is a really, really good question. I will say, first of all, sorry, I know the camera's really weird, but there's a difference between saying I will get this done and if I get this done, it's extra credit. And I learned, especially for me, I thrive on extra credit. I think you're absolutely right. If you don't trust yourself, getting other people to trust you is going to be a nightmare. And if you don't trust yourself, getting them to trust themselves is going to be difficult, because we lead by example. And also we know if these techniques work, if we've practiced them. And obviously some of the stuff I know I can improve on, but just once again, remembering, celebrate your wins 7 times more than you critique your losses. yes, you do need to go back and look at it. But yeah, so if I look at my list and I say my goal, the 3 is kind of, they say, the maximum. These are my 3 commitments for the day. And if I get 4 done, that's extra credit. Look, I get to put extra money in my bank. I did more than I committed to do. If I do 5 things, oh, look, I did more than I committed to do. But you have to frame it as extra credit up front, because if you try to call it extra credit after you do, if you don't get to it and you say, well, it was just extra credit anyway, you may not believe yourself, if that makes any sense.
100%. So my other question would be, is there any power in just making a mental list or in writing it down? What would be the difference in that?
Oh, I mean, obviously a mental list is better than nothing, than no list. But yeah, if you write it down, that kinesthetic sense of checking it off, and I'm sure you all know this too, but it's so powerful to actually write it out. And some people, if it's something that's been in your way that you want to get rid of, the power of saying, ha, I conquered you, I crossed you out, might be more powerful than checking it off. If it's something that you want and you're thinking of it as a benefit, oh, I collected you, I'm checking you off, you're mine now. Like the words you use as you're doing the list and as you're checking it off or crossing it off, I think can also make a difference too. But good questions, Mo, by the way. Thank you for making me think about that, because I needed the answers more than I think anybody else did.
I'm gonna chime in really quick. Holly, that was amazing, awesome insight. Super, super happy. Loved all of it. Wrote so many notes. And if anybody's wondering, really, this is what it takes? Yes, really, this is what it takes.
But it comes back to what TJ was talking earlier. Sometimes it's just a 1 degree shift. And if you're leaving Los Angeles, going to New York, a 1 degree shift will make the difference whether you're going to hit New York or not.
And on a completely different, non-related, short piece of information, this is just so I can document. Those of you that know me well know that I have a hearing challenge in my left ear, but occasionally I'll hear a pop and my hearing comes back. It just came back. That's why you saw me plugging my right ear. And I have to have this documented now so that when I try to get this fixed, because they're trying to tell me it's nerve damage. And I'm like, so you're telling me that nerve damage can just, all of a sudden I can hear fine, and then after a little bit it just goes, and then I can't hear anymore. And that's when the ENT goes, huh? So completely unrelated, but just wanted to get this documented so that I can, because the
I'm just
insurance
going to be that person. You just said try to get it fixed. Do you mean when you do get it fixed because they're trying, but you're going to?
No, I'm trying to get them to listen to me, because the insurance company, I finally got an ENT that went, oh, and ordered a procedure to test it. And the insurance company went, yeah, no, we don't cover hearing. I went, it's also affecting my vertigo, my balance, all of the above. Yeah, but it's hearing related. It's with, we don't cover ears. Yeah. So again, completely off topic, just wanted to make sure that I was able to have an exact, here it is recorded live. I can hear you guys when I do this. What a concept. Yeah. So thanks for being part of my validation. Back to trust, or the next topic, or whatever. We've got 17 minis left in number 5.5, and Lenora has her hand up.
I have another question.
Perfect.
Shocking. If somebody says that they're struggling with the passing of their loved one, and how do you go about having a conversation with that loved one? What is your protocol for that? Or does anybody have a protocol for that, of being able to talk to that loved one? Love that we got all smiles over here.
Go ahead, folks.
I guess I'll jump in. The first thing that came to my mind when you were saying that was Viktor Frankel's thing. And I would say too, my first thing to say is, how far out has the passing happened? Because if it happened, last night, the idea that they've processed it properly and they've done all their proper grieving, like they may just be being too hard on themselves, expecting themselves to heal faster than is normal, not that the word normal means anything, but the second thing that he said that he loves to give people, and this is more for couples that have lost a spouse. He had a man that was just devastated to go on without his wife. And so he had him, before he, thought about his wife, he just said, what would it have been like for your wife to have had to go on without you? And he said, well, it'd been really hard for her. She, and he said, so what does it mean to you, knowing that you can tell her that you are willing to go on without her, because that's either you had to go at exactly the same time, which, the stats of that are not that high, or one of you had to go on without the other. What kind of a gift is it that you can give her to let her know you spared her having to go on without you? So anyway, I really loved that one, because the point is just, he was saying, it may be scenario specific, but giving it meaning. Because as soon as suffering has meaning, it's much easier. It's no longer suffering. It's something you could bear. It may be hard, but it's not suffering anymore.
And potentially, Holly, do a reframe on that. Because like if you're with somebody for 20 years, well, what would it have been like if you had 20 years without them? But you got to experience them for 20 years versus now I have to go on without them, right? So it's just doing that reframe, being grateful for what you have, not being sad for what you've lost.
And what Mo just said made me think of another one I've used before as well, that and different people have different religions and lack of religion and whatever, so I always respect that. But if you think about it, how many friends do you have that you haven't talked to in 10 years? And maybe you're not mourning them that way, but it could be a reminder. So one, it could be, like the feeling may be different, but another is just kind of a reminder of how important it is to renew and value the relationships that you do have in your life that you haven't lost yet, that you have the capability to reestablish. Because for some reason, it's kind of this, if you believe, in God, if you believe in another life, if you believe in journey of the souls, whatever it is you believe, chances are this is just kind of like they've taken an extended vacation from you and you're going to be reunited. But if they genuinely done it on Earth and they'd gone join the Peace Corps, we might not have treated it the same way. So sorry, I know I'm rambling, but.
No, well, I think you bring up a good point, Holly. Like if you didn't honor them while they were alive, why are you trying to honor them when they're dead?
When I have clients come to me for stuff like that, there are a couple of protocols that we can use. One is 3-chair, where they can have an avatar of the person come up. And it doesn't have to per se be somebody that they love and miss. It could be somebody that did them wrong. Could be somebody that they had an argument with that passed away and they didn't get that closure. And so that's one of them. The other one that I've used a number of times for a real quick reframe is, especially when it's somebody that they truly love, spouse, family member, something like that. I'm like, okay, so I'm curious. They loved you, right? Yeah. If there was some way for me to talk to them, and I could ask them, how long would it be appropriate for you to mourn and suffer? How long would it be appropriate? A week, 2 weeks? would they feel better if you were suffering for the rest of your life? What might they say? And it's interesting that when I present that question to them, a lot of times they'll look at me like, what? I'm like, no, seriously, if they truly loved you, or if the roles were reversed, if you had passed away and they were here, how long would you love to watch them from heaven living on earth, suffering, feeling miserable, losing sleep, affecting their health? How long would you tell them, you need to suffer this long so that I feel justified? They're like, well, I wouldn't want them to suffer. Listen to what you just said. If they truly are the person that you've described, that you are missing, that you are loving, do you truly feel that they're up there feeling great, that you're down here feeling so miserable and suffering because you can't talk to them anymore? Or if the roles were reversed, what might you tell them? I said, understand, you can tell them not to feel bad after a certain point. But what else might you tell them? Would you tell them that they have to be miserable and single for the rest of their life? Or would you tell them, I want you to live the best life you can for me until you can join me again? I want you to think about the good times that we had and find a way to continue to have good times. Because I'm still with you. And hanging around you when you are miserable sucks. This whole mourning thing is really getting me down. Yes, I'm sorry I had to leave early, but man, trying to hang around with you now? You are one miserable person. Stop it. Go back to the way we were when we were having fun, when you fell in love with me. Find somebody else so that I can watch the joy in your eyes again. It won't take away from me. I'm still here, and it won't hurt me.
I know I keep rambling, but that reminds me of it. This was not an actual session I did. I dreamt I did a session with someone who had been in the towers on September 11th, who was dealing with survivor's guilt. And in the dream, I know this is a dream, it sounds completely crazy, but I just had this thought, have them regress them to the experience and have them swap places with the person who died. And have them look down and say, I died and you survived. How do I want you to feel? But it went further than that because the person in the dream had deliberately chosen to give up his life. It was a specific guy I had seen in a documentary, had chosen to give up his life to save the lives of like 10 other people. And so the first thought was, how are you dishonoring his sacrifice that he chose to do? And then the other question is, what if it wasn't, it's not that they gave up, because you lived, somebody else died. What if 10,000 people were supposed to die that day, but only 2,000 did? It wasn't like you took somebody else's place. Anyway, sorry, it just reminded me of that, but yeah.
Yeah, these are all important reframes because I don't believe that people need or are supposed to suffer. I've told the story a couple of times when my father was in on his deathbed. And I was in there and I was just talking to him like normal, bringing up stories from the past and laughing. And, you know, I knew he was in a lot of pain. But my sister was out in the hallway crying and refused to come in. And finally, I just walked out and I said, "What are you crying about?" And of course, she's like, "That's a dumb question." I'm like, "Yeah, because I know. You're crying because you think you know how much time Papa has left." And so let me ask you a question. When are you going to start crying for me? And that was what really, she was like, "What? What are you talking?" I said, "Well, you think you know how much time Papa has left, and you think you know how much time I have left. But when I leave here, because I do have to go back home and go back to work, I'm going to drive on freeways where people crash and die. And then I'm going to get into an airplane that you refuse to get on because airplanes crash, people die. And then when I land, hopefully successfully, in San Diego, I'm going to be on even bigger freeways where people crash and die. And because I've been here for a week and haven't rode my motorcycle for an entire week, and the weather in San Diego is perfect right now, I'm going to ride my motorcycle on busy freeways where people crash and die. There's a good possibility I could be dead before Papa. But you're not crying for me. Papa's not dead yet. He is stuck in a body that's failed him. It's at the end, but the spirit is still in there. He still has all his memories. He can still communicate. He can still laugh through the pain. You still have time to go in there and spend time with the soul that's trapped inside of the failed body. Get in there and spend time with the soul, listen to the voice, share memories. Don't look at the body if you don't want to. Look at his face. Get him to laugh. Laughter is one of the best medicines out there. I've got 3 minutes left. I'll share. Go ahead, man.
Well, one of the things that ties into that, 100% correct, Joe Dispenza always talks about pain is inevitable. Everybody will have pain. It's the suffering that's optional. And we choose to suffer. We don't choose pain. And the difference between pain and suffering, which people don't make the distinction, is the pain is what happens to you. The suffering is how it occurs to you and how long you decide to stay.
Awesome quote. I hope that people that are watching this recording are rewinding and playing that back and writing it down. A couple of minutes left. I'm going to share you a quick story that from a Christian comedian that I saw on a New Year's Eve show at one of our churches. And he said when he first started out, he wasn't exactly making all that much money, trying to be a comedian. And so he was taking any shows, jobs that he could. And he got contacted to do a 3-day show. He didn't even ask questions. He's like, 3 days? Yes, I'm good. I'm awesome. And he showed up and found out that it was at a cancer hospital. And he said, and I got a little tested in my Christianity because I was like, oh, really? I got to deal with this? But he did it anyway. And turnout was pretty good. Unfortunately, there were a lot of people, a lot of patients in that hospital. And the staff would bring the patients down and sit with them as well. So he had a good audience. And at the end of the third night, and this is going to choke me up, so just get ready, because those of you that know me, I'm a strong dude with no emotions. He had a lady come up to him and she said, "Do you know how important what you do is?" He was like, "Well, I enjoy it." She goes, "No, you have the most powerful medicine in this building." She goes, "I've been suffering with cancer and in pain for a long time. And I came to see you the first night. And when I went back to my room that night, I realized for 2 hours I had no pain." And I thought, no. So I came back the second night to watch you. 2 hours, I had no pain, none. I came back tonight. No pain. That's when he realized that he had a gift. Sometimes we take it for granted. Sometimes it's just sharing 2 hours with people. It's like you guys sharing time with me. So thank you. That's why I always thank you for sharing your time, because I can't give it back to you. Hopefully I made it worth your time. Those of you watching live on YouTube, I'm The Rock TJ. No emotions. If you enjoyed what you saw, please click subscribe, ring the bell, leave comments. Tell other people, share it please, not for my benefit, but hopefully somebody will find something that will improve their life that they can share with others. But I always respect and make sure that we don't go too long. So, Triple T number 55 is in the books. Made it. I look forward to seeing you again in 7. Until then, go out, enjoy life, be kind to people, be kind to yourself, and be better than the person you were yesterday. And if you don't know how to, please reach out to any of us. Bye.